his point is that it is a degree of stylization. The example you gave that in a modern play, as your guru does, that he brings in a character who is performing highly stylized movement to bring out the truth of that character, then that is Natya Dharmi. Although that character is from Loka, but it is Natya Dharmi, all right. And it matches with the rest of the play because it has a definite purpose there. So people are able to accept it, that this is a character, the character is expressing himself. The moment they realize that he is not expressing himself, no matter how stylized the person is, they will reject. But if the character is a continuity of action, they'll accept and they'll be delighted. They'll be delighted. So, the fact remains that Natya Dharmi, as you have used in order to express the character, is still an artificial activity which is not seen in normal life. That is why it is Natya Dharmi. That is why it is stylization. But it has a purpose, therefore it is good in theatre, useful in theatre.
So it does not depend upon the content, it depends upon how you present the content.
How you approach the content,
It doesn't.
how you create the content. I mean, in a play, everything is created by you. The content is created by you.
No, as in like yesterday you were saying abnormal activity like Rama is a safe
Yes.
but in that case, in Girish Karnad's play, the activity or the content is not abnormal. It is normal. But
No, but the presentation is made in a language of acting which is abnormal. So the act may be very normal, like in that play Fire and Rain, the priests are fighting, so it is a very ordinary dialogue, but that rendition of the dialogue can be done in a highly stylized manner, in a Natya Dharmi manner. Certainly.
it depends on how
The production is managed. Yeah. All right, if you don't have any more question, then I go ahead with this. And the way the dialogue was really read out. In excitement, words come fast. In pain, they come slowly. In comfortable states, they are steady and measured. Bharat Muni analyzes the phenomena of voice fluctuation by dividing it into 6 elements. So the part here is made of 6 kinds. The way you are going to render the dialogue is divided into 6. 6 Pathya Guna. The 7 notes, Shadja, Rishabha, Gandhar, etc., are the first element. They are considered to be an element. Let me first tell you all 6 and then I'll come to each of them. The 3 voice registers, thanas, this is another element. The 4 accents, udatta, anudatta, swarita, kampit, these are the third element. 2 kinds of kaku, voice alteration. 6 alankaras or tonal fluctuations within one register make up the 5th element. And finally 6 angas or the ways of producing tonal fluctuations in all the registers with pauses and rhythmic control are the 6th element. In other words, these are the 6 ways. Some are elements in the sense that the 7 notes, etc. It is suggested by Abhinav Gupta that although kaku is defined here as one of the 6 elements, in reality the total performance of the rise and fall of voice and all its changes should be called kaku. This is something we have already discussed in the morning. Any slight change in voice, intentional or otherwise, is called kaku. I explained to you what is kaku. So they say that something which expresses an intent and therefore there is a slight change in tone, that reflects a kaku. For instance, I say a sentence, he is going. Now if I want to make a question into he is going, I'll say, he is going. See? He is going. So I have made a question out of the same sentence. He is going. This is a statement. He is going. This is a question. He is going. He is going. So this is, it means something else.
He is going up.
See? So all this is sakanksha kaku. You can go on making variations of this. It's just the same sentence. And this illustrates so well the difference between vyakta and avyakta. Because the words he is going, they are the same, the action is the same, but then kaku has made all the difference. That's why Abhinav Gupta says that whatever is spoken, whatever is sung, whatever is produced by the throat is related to or is contained in or is dependent upon kaku entirely. Thank you for that illustration. Yeah. The vocal cords govern the tonal quality of voice, but the tongue makes it into phonemes. This is a linguistic term. Thus it also governs kakus. Now, there is something else which is added by Abhinav Gupta, but I have already given you an example of it, the difference between Pathya, Saswara Pathya and Gan. And I have also given you the distinction between how even animals can communicate, because feelings like fear and joy and trepidation, and they can all be expressed even by animals. And the commentator Abhinav Gupta goes on to say that there are people who understand this all very well. So it exists, it is there to, if we understand, we can make it. If nothing in Pathya, now the question is, was the Pathya just said as speech? Jatakataha sabhrama brahmannilam pinirichari, or was it said as jatakataha sabhrama, or was it sung? How was Pathya, how was dialogue rendered in ancient theatre? If I say this way, what proof do I have? If I say this way, what proof do I have? If nothing in Pathya was to be sung, then why at all does Bharat Muni make the 7 notes as one of the 6 elements of Pathya? So, suppose if I say no, nothing was sung. It was just said like ordinary speech. If it is just said not ordinary speech, then why is it that Sarigama Padhani, the 7 notes of music are part of Pathya? Then there would be no need. Just inflection of voice, rise and fall should be enough. Because rise and fall of voice is not notes. Notes is a very measured rise and fall. Notes have a place on the scale, well-defined place. So he is giving a well-defined place. So should we then presume that dialogue was rendered with a certain amount of musicality and reference to some kind of a musical scale or some kind of a, let us say in simple language, raga structure or something? As said earlier, the voice fluctuation is related to emotional fluctuation. This relationship works the same in music as in Pathya, only that in music pitch fluctuation takes the form of exact notes, whereas in Pathya notes remain approximation. To guide the speaker, the musical notes of a particular scale could be given as approximate locations around which he may inflect his voice. So if you do this, that okay, read your part in this manner, you don't have to elaborately use gamakas and alankaras to make it appear like classical music, but approximation. Was this the method? Now look, I am only speculating because I am trying to analyze the text. I do not have an example from ancient times. Although I have seen, for instance, in Balinese drama, I have seen wonderful illustrations of the Pathya chapter of Natya Shastra. I have heard that. But one has to do a deeper research. The recommendations of Natya Shastra, when the emotional content of words are related to humor, love, Madhyam and Pancham should be made as swara, that is employed as tonic. For the heroic, wondrous and terrible emotions, Shadj and Rishabh and Gandhar are to be used for pity, etc. Now this is a recommendation that Natya Shastra makes in the 17th chapter. In other words, it seems that certain structures were used when the dialogue was rendered. It was some kind of a saswara part. Maybe in certain portions it was gone. And from what we can imagine from certain traditional arts, this was probably true. Because in all these traditional arts, they were using either full singing or they were using a recitative method. And even when you use a recitative method, you can vaguely use a raga structure. And if you do it very formally, if your whole play is prepared, then it is possible. And this is what is my guess also. It fits in with the logic of things because they thought that if you have to heighten the emotional effect, remember, bhavabhivyanjana is the main purpose of all this kind of a play. You have to be aroused emotionally and intellectually. You have to be given a world in which you can enter and in which you can appreciate things in deep emotional states. So, how is it that Pathya, when everything else is so formalized, when everything else is so stylized, how is it that Pathya alone will be realistic or would be semi-realistic? As a matter of fact, let alone drama, I have heard, particularly in Banaras, and maybe you may have heard them too, the kathas. You know, the kathakaras, they are doing Ramayana katha. Of course, in Ramayana katha they may be singing the the chaupai. But then even when they are telling the katha, they are not telling it in the normal tone. I'm sure this happens in Hari Kathas here also. और फिर हनुमान जी आ गए, विभीषण के आगे आकर बोले हे प्रभु. This is not normal. They are not doing, और फिर हनुमान जी आ गए. It's not like Murari Bapu saying today, और फिर हनुमान जी आ गए. I mean, for hours I've heard this. The very traditional one. There was no speech, ordinary speech. And if this is happening in a Ramayana Katha, in a Hari Katha, then it's more than likely to be happening in the play. It definitely be happening. This is one of the major conundrums of ancient music. Abhinav suggests that it implies that use the amsha note of a jati in a pathya and then use the pathya accordingly. Let me skip all this. For basis a particular raga or a tune of a raga, and I can do my dialogue rendering accordingly. I think this sounds very reasonable, and perhaps this is how it was done. Now, as the other aspects, the 6 aspects are concerned, they basically refer to the techniques. As we have already spent a lot of time, I don't want to expand on that. The techniques of how to make the voice go to all the parts of the theater hall. How will you speak a dialogue so that by the time you have come to the end of the dialogue, it's hardly audible to people at the back? So you will start the dialogue in such a manner. You know, today we are all dependent on microphones. And so the job of the speaker is very easy. He doesn't or she doesn't have to perspire as much. But 50 years ago, musicians who had no microphone, they really had to sing in a very loud voice. And the whole singing style was high-pitched. Your adhara shruti, your swara would not be something like B minor. It has to be D in the Western scale, you know, from where you will start singing. Because if you start singing from a higher level, then you can reach the people at the back. So all these techniques have been used in order to and capture the audience in your hall. And the 6 techniques of pathya, where to stop, how to start, how to pronounce the whole sequence of the dialogue, relate to that. If it ever interests you, you can read this part of the Natyashastra, you can read some of the explanations that I have given in my book on this. So, with this we come to the end of the 17th chapter, and then I go now to the 18th, in which we are entering an entirely different category regarding the production of ancient plays. The 18th chapter is about the 10 kinds of plays. Now, in the Western tradition, which inherits the Greek classification of plays, there are only 3 major genres: tragedy, comedy, and satire. Because the Greeks, when they did their plays, the competition was on a tragedy. So a set of 3 tragedies would be produced in a day by a playwright, and at the end of those 3 plays he would produce a satire. So tragedy would be serious, it would have all the gods and heroes in them, and the satire would be about very light and low level characters who would make fun. In other words, you had a day full of very serious subject, when you cried, when you were horrified, when you were astonished, etc., etc., and when before you went home, you had some kind of a laughter. And there were dirty jokes and there was vulgarity provided so that you could come back to the normal world and go home. The format was taken in medieval times, in Renaissance time, to revive Western European drama. And when they started reading Aristotle and the comedies, then these were the 3 things they had before them. I told you that in the West, in Europe, even in Greece, theater had come to an end because it did not match with Christian values. So when they revived it, after they came out from the clutches of Orthodox Christianity and they had rethinking, then they read the text of Aristotle and they revived. So tragedies were written, comedies were written, and satires were written. And to this day, the Western tradition hangs around these 3 major genres or rupakaha. In the Natya Shastra, we are given an account of 10 kind of plays. Not 3, not 4, but 10. As I explained to you, that they can be divided into 2 categories: those which are full of conflict, avidha, and those which are sukumar. So basically, love plays and fighting plays, love and war. Love and war is always the permanent theme of theatre. Primarily love and war, but 10 genres. And what are they? Natakam, Prakarana, Vyayog, Bhan, Samavakar, Vithi, Prahasan, Dima, and Iha Mriga. So these are the 10 forms. And let me just repeat them to you, and let me also tell you what they signify and how they differ from each other and why they are made to differ from each other. What are these Dasha Rupakas? 10 kinds of Rupakas. The name for genre, dramatic genre in the Indian tradition is Rupaka. The most prominent of all the genre is Natak. Of course, now Indians and even Sanskrit professors have forgotten all the 10 genres. They only remember one, which is Natak, because that's all what they teach, because that's all which is prescribed. And you will see now in a minute as to why they cannot teach some others. They can only teach Natak, because teaching others is full of danger. What was performed once all over the country, most of it cannot even be taught now, because society has become so small-minded. Natak was supposed to be constructed out of a well-known story in which the hero belonged to a royal family or was a king himself. He had an udatta, elevated character. In Natak, a supernatural episode was necessary. By supernatural, you understand something? Divya, which is not seen ordinarily. So, like in Mrichakatikam, which is a prakaran, there is no divya, nothing supernatural happens. But in Abhigyan Shakuntalam, it happens. Abhigyan Shakuntalam, Menaka comes and takes Shakuntala away. The element of wondrous was emphasized in a natak. Wonder had to be there. Something adbhut, not just adbhut of disappearance of Shakuntala, but the whole production. The fact that Dushyant goes to heaven, comes down and discovers his child, all these things, they have a touch of the adbhut. The wealth of the royalty, their erotic exploits, the cycle of pleasure and pain are fully displayed. The genre consists of 5 to 10 acts. That is Anka. At least 5, at the most 10, but have to be long. It was recommended that in a natak or a prakaran, there should be no more than 4 or 5 personae at one time on the stage. At any given time, the dramatic characters should not be more than 4 or 5. Why? Because if they are 20, you can't pay attention to their individual characters. They will not be, it will be more like group work, as you find in most Bharatnatyam productions now, group work. You will not be paying attention to the individual character. The individual character will not emerge as forceful. Both the genres, natak and prakaran, were to be done in kaishiki vritti, which the other 8 genres use sparingly. The playtime for a single act was 1 day. A whole day was required, not just 1.5 hours. And I have my doubts if it was just 1 day, because there is a line which uses Eka Divasa Privrittam is taken to mean to be performed in 1 day, and not to mean depiction of the day actions of 1 day. See, Eka Divasa Pravrittam. So, which is the activity, the pravritti of 1 day, or activity or pravritti of 1 day of the episode is to be done in a whole day. In other words, 1 act a day. Ek divasa pravrittam means what? 1 day affair means what? 1 episode a day or a whole play in 1 day? If it is 1 episode a day or 1 act 1 day, then Abhigyan Shakuntalam should take 7 days to be performed. And Mrichakatikam should take, I think, even longer. Abhinav seems to interpret it in the former way. Atha ankasya prayoga kala parimanam iyam iti darshayati eka divasa pravrittam iti. Right? In other words, one act a day. Because in one act in classical drama represents what happened in one particular day. So one act is given to when Vasanta Sena comes to meet Charudat. Another act is given to when she runs into his home accidentally, so on and so forth. That way, a play would be performed in 7 to 6 days. If the first mean is accepted, then a single play would have taken 5 to 10 days to be performed. Nowadays, it takes only 2 hours. The ancient productions took time as performance script was full of songs, gestural communication, angik abhinay, and angik abhinay of various kinds, such as Suchi, Ankur, Shakha, etc. We'll talk about this also because it's very important for you as Bharatnatyam dancers. Besides, the Purvarang was performed every day, at least in the simple manner, and sometimes in the Chitra manner, elaborate manner, which would take much more time. So, a natak was usually, but not invariably,